Welcome back to Camo Sports, and this is not going to be your typical episode, mainly because next week is Georgia Southern spring break, and I'm not going to be at my dorm during spring break. I'm going to be home, so I'm not going to have my podcast equipment. So I'm going ahead and recording another episode Thursday, March the 13th. So then I have an episode so I continue to post weekly. But today's episode is going to be relatively short, and it's just going to be me asking the question, what are the Falcons doing? And I'm just going to be ranting about that. This is not going to be super factual. This is going to be very opinionated, and this is just going to be coming from a Atlanta sports fan just complaining pretty much this entire episode. During free agency, really all we have done is gotten worse. We got rid of our center in Drew Dowman, and he was ranked one of the highest centers according to Pro Football Focus and pretty much everywhere you see. And he's relatively young, and we let him walk right out the front door. And we also cut Grady Jarrett, who has been with our team for, 10 to 11 years? And he's been one of the only good defensive linemen we've had for the past couple of years, and we just let him walk out the front door. Obviously, because we have no cap space. We can't do anything because our organization is run terrible, and we decide to pay people when we should not pay them at all. I'm going to go through every single position. I'm just going to complain about pretty much everything. So at quarterback, Michael Penix. I love Michael Penix. He looked very good during the second half of the season, but we took a quarterback at 8 when we already paid our backup quarterback now, Kirk Cousins, $40 million for 4 years with a bunch of money guaranteed, coming off of an Achilles injury. And it's almost like our GM just closed their eyes from 2 seasons ago and just forgot that Kirk Cousins had an Achilles injury, or he said normal medicine is way better so he can come back from an Achilles injury. They were probably watching players like Kevin Durant come back even better from an Achilles injury. Well, guess what? You're comparing Kirk Cousins to Kevin Durant. 2 different players. Completely different players. I would have been totally fine if we just got Kirk Cousins and we used our draft pick on something else. But we decided that it was in our best interest to pay somebody and then immediately draft his replacement, making him unhappy. And it has been reported that Kirk Cousins went to the GM and the owner in a private meeting and said he would like to be traded so he can start somewhere else. And we told him no. So now we have a disgruntled backup quarterback holding the clipboard. And I love Kirk Cousins. He's a great dude. He's a great human being. But he's going to be very unhappy. And do you think he's really going to put forth his best effort into progressing Michael Penix into the player that he really needs to be? I don't think so because he doesn't want to be there. He's made it clearly obvious. And then going to the running back situation, this is going back a few years. Would you have to Bijan Robinson, the top 10 as well? Now, Bijan Robinson last year, he had a breakout season. He looks very good, and he's obviously one of the best running backs in the league. But the season prior to that, we already had a 1,000-yard running back in Tyler Algier. So why did we draft a running back? Why didn't we get a player like Jalen Carter from Georgia or another pass rusher when we have literally nobody on defense right now to rush the passer at all? But instead we're going to draft Bijan Robinson. Even though he is a good player, we just didn't need a running back. I just don't understand it. Now receivers, Drake London broke out last year. Darnell Mooney, a very good season last year. Ray McLeod had a very surprising season last year. So I'm very satisfied with our receiving core. But then we get to the tight end position in Kyle Pitts. We drafted him number 4 overall over players like Penei Sewell and Jamar Chase for that matter. And we just don't know how to use him. I mean, his very first season, he had a 1,000-yard season, and he looked very promising. And then we just stopped using him in the offense completely, and we stopped giving him the ball or making him a priority in the offense. Me and Dad, every time that we watch the Falcons, we have an ongoing joke that Kyle Pitts is the best blocking tight end in the NFL. Because that's what we use him for. All we use him for is to block when he's one of the most gifted tight ends to ever come out of the draft, but instead we make sure his hand is in the dirt and he's blocking defensive ends. Like, why are we doing that? Why don't we make him a priority? So I think we should just go ahead and get rid of him because our offensive coordinator and just our offensive philosophy has clearly shown that we are not going to try to get Kyle Pitts the ball and he's not going to be a priority. So we might as well just trade him for whatever we can get him because what's the point of paying a tight end if you're not going to use him and you're only going to use him to block? And then we get to the offensive line. We have Jake Matthews. He's a average to an above average offensive tackle. We just restructured his deal, so he's not making as much money, which is good. And we also have one of, if not the best guards in all of football, Chris Lindstrom. And beside that, we really don't have anything on the offensive line. Our center is still a big question mark after Drew Dowman left. Caleb McGarry, he's fine. Matthew Bergun, I think that's how you say his last name. I mean, he's okay, but he's not anything special. So I don't know if we're going to draft offensive line in the draft. I'm hoping we do, but we also have a hit on late round picks anyway. So I really don't know what we're going to do. And we're a horribly run franchise and all of that. And protecting the quarterback is at utmost importance. I mean, take it from the Texans last year. C.J. Stroud had one of the best rookie seasons we've ever had. And then they were projected to go to the Super Bowl. But why didn't they make the Super Bowl? It's because they did not address and beef up their offensive line, and it killed them last year. And from what it looks like going into next season, it's going to be an issue again. And now that we identified a franchise quarterback, what are we doing? We gave him weapons, that's good, but we don't give him an offensive line at all. And that's just not a recipe for success, especially since Michael Penix had a very injury-prone career going back from high school to college. Hasn't got hurt in the pros yet, but he also hasn't played too many games. So I'm hoping he doesn't get hurt. But the chances of him getting hurt are a lot more likely than other players. And we really need to address the offensive line. And then on defense, you know it's bad when a diehard Falcons fan who watches every single week has to take several seconds, going on minutes, trying to think of who in the world is even going to start on our defensive line. Because right now we only have, David Automata, I think is how you say his name. I just call him David. He's a serviceable defensive tackle, but beside that, who else do we have? I mean, we have Arnold Epikady, but he's not great. He had a better year last year than he's had in the past, but he's not anything special. I mean, Zach Harrison, is that your answer? D'Angelo Malone? Who's going to rush the passer? In my opinion, in the NFL, when you're building a roster, you have to check off a few things if you actually want to contend. The first thing, you got to have a quarterback nowadays. Second, you got to protect your quarterback. Third, you got to make the other opposing quarterback uncomfortable with pressure. And consistently, for years on years, we cannot generate pressure getting after the other team's quarterback. And we just haven't addressed it one bit. And now we're getting worse with no defensive line, no really outside linebackers. I'm assuming we're going to pick somebody with our first-round pick. But heck, probably everybody's going to be gone at that point, so we're just going to get somebody else that is probably not going to be very good. I mean, I've seen mock drafts that were projected to get Tennessee's edge rusher, but he's very raw. He has a lot of potential, but who knows? I mean, Anthony Richardson had a lot of potential, and you see what he is now. He's probably going to be a backup quarterback with Daniel Jones after he loses the job, I bet. And then we get to linebackers. Hopefully, Troy Anderson can get back healthy because he looked like a bright spot at points of the season. And then we have Caden Ellis. Those are not big names. And tackling was a huge issue towards the end of the season, and we just haven't done anything to address it. And oh my gosh, DBs, we have nobody. Beside A.J. Terrell Jr. and Jesse Bates, who are two great. Jesse Bates is probably the best safety in the league, and A.J. Terrell is probably a, top 8, top 10 corner in the NFL. But beside those two, we have nobody in the defensive backfield. Nobody. I just don't understand what we're doing, and I know we don't have cap space right now, so we can't make huge significant moves because we're paying so much money to Kirk Cousins. But we got to do something. Not all the time, but most of the time with these successful teams in the NFL, what you see is once they identify their franchise quarterback, they go for it. They start overpaying for people when they have to and try to surround the quarterback with as much as possible, and you go for it. And why do you go for it when the quarterback is young? It's because he's not making a lot of money. When he starts making a lot of money, then your talent roster has to go down. Like, look at the 49ers. I mean, when they had Brock Purdy making absolutely nothing, they went for it. They basically had the Avengers with Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Trent Williams, Christian McCaffrey. I mean, all these players are just surrounded by a rookie quarterback who's not making much money. But instead, we just don't have a team around him, and we're not anywhere close to being able to compete, in my opinion. And then we get to our head coach, Raheem Morris. He's not good. His only responsibility, game manage. That's pretty much it. And he refuses to call timeouts and just keeps timeouts in his pockets during games. It happens so many times, and so many bogus and so many boneheaded decisions happen throughout the year. But I think he's already proven that he's just not a good coach. And there were other coaches like, we could have signed Ben Johnson. Heck, I bet he would have loved to be with Michael Penix right now. But no, we're just going to stick with Raheem Morris. who's obviously not the guy for the job, and he's not really a head coach. But don't worry, at least our locker room and our facilities and our treatment of family is good. At least we have that going for us right now, and our owner has like an A+. That's about the only thing that's A+ about our team right now, because our team is so bad. And I know I'm talking really bad about the Falcons right now, and I probably am getting too angry and riled up right now, but I promise you, I mean, look at this. I'm a Falcons fan. I'm a diehard Falcons fan. I watch them every single Sunday. I'm tuning in to like shows just to figure out what the Falcons are doing every single week. And it's just disappointment after disappointment. It's throughout all Atlanta sports teams, if I'm being honest. It's like we just never go for it. We're trying to be mediocre, and we're trying not to suck. That's pretty much what Atlanta sports has been, especially with the Falcons. And I just don't get it. I mean, either completely suck so you can get a great draft pick, or you go for it and you try to make moves to win a Super Bowl. So really, I don't know what our direction is right now. In the draft, we're going to have to address defense, and maybe one of the Georgia players slide down. Maybe Jalen Walker, because I think Jalen Walker's going to be a stud. Mikael Williams is raw, but he has a lot of potential. Malachi Starks is a stud. But you know what? The Atlanta Falcons front office, for some reason, just has a vendetta on just not drafting Georgia players. I guess because we're in Atlanta and that's where Georgia Tech is, and they're just salty that we beat their butt every freaking year. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know, but continuously Georgia's putting out the best defensive players, and they're literally in your state, and you will not draft them. And last thing before I get out of here, because I know I'm just ranting, what do I do with this jersey? I mean, am I going to wear a backup quarterback's jersey? I just don't know what to do anymore. But anyway, that's enough ranting. I know this is not your typical episode, and I was just basically complaining the entire time, but I felt like I just needed to get that out. And I really haven't talked about the Falcons too much, so there's my rant for this episode. I know this was all over the place, but if you did enjoy and you feel sympathy for me being a Falcons fan and going through torture every single year, make sure you like and subscribe. Once again, once we get to 50 subscribers, I am going to be having a special guest. So if you don't want to hear me just sit here and complain, make sure you subscribe. Leave a comment on anything you have. I know there's Falcons fans that listen to this, so give me your comments and go ahead and complain with me in the comment section below. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. It's probably shorter, but I just feel like I needed to get it out. And that's all I have for y'all. See y'all next weekend. Bye.